Unable to change the title of the book temporarily, alias. Mrs. Liu, Mr. Liu has gone to find Bai Yueguang desperately again. 1v1 double Cleanliness+Love and Cruelty+Male leads early illness and Infatuation+Female leads clear and restrained. Mr. Ba blocked his ex-wife and said, "You openly declare that I can't do it. No one wants me anymore, you have to take responsibility." My ex-wife sneered, "Are you okay?" "I can do it, I am very good, so should we remarry? The white Moonlight is older than me, and I am better suited for a little milk dog than me." Mr. Ba said he has always loved her, only her, and no one else. She doesn't agree with such love. If she agrees to marry her, she won't even be able to afford the cost of a car accident. Will loving her help her enemy green tea girl over and over again? Will loving her choose to save green tea girl at a critical moment of life and death? Sorry, she doesn't want this kind of love. She doesn't mind such a man. After divorce, she returned to her grandfather's family and became the world's richest granddaughter. The first thing is to make green tea sister feel like she's alive or dead. The second thing is that the high-profile announcement of divorce is due to the ex-husband's inability. My grandfather domineeringly proposed for her marriage, demanding that she be very polite, with a dowry of over 10 billion yuan, a house of over 100 hectares, and a net worth of over 100 billion yuan. Bai Yueguang said, "I meet the requirements, marry me. Little milk dog. Sister, I am very good at everything. My small island covers an area of 1,000 hectares. My ex-husband said, "Get up, everyone. I have a life-saving kindness to you. Come back." What's the situation? My ex-husband, which one is he going to finish? Chapter 1. He will be served by family law. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Huagua Nanqing. Explosive. The indecent video of popular actress Mo Rujin has been exposed, with the male protagonist in the video involving dozens of wealthy first and second generations in the wealthy circle of Nanqing. Explosive. Mo Rujin's identity has been exposed, and her mother is suspected to be a lover taken care of by the chairman of the Luo Group. She herself has long been involved in the wealthy circles of the southern city and has had an affair with dozens of people. Explosive. During the filming period, Mo Rujin played a big card, harassed, refused to act, and bullied other actresses, resulting in the failure to release Starry Stars as scheduled and causing heavy losses to the production team. The Mo Rujin incident is constantly fermenting on the internet, with onlookers crowding the comments section of websites. The wealthy ladies in the wealthy circles of the southern city have launched a collective ban order, which has been collectively trampled upon by bullies and subjected to verbal and written punishment. In Yunyuan Senior Apartment, Nanqing Commercial Center. Luo Yunshu nestled in the sofa, holding a tablet in his left hand and gently sliding his index finger on it in his right hand. The corner of his mouth gradually rose, forming a very beautiful curve. The number of comments online criticizing Mo Rujin and demanding her ban continues to rise. Friend and Ran sent a WeChat message saying, "Yunshu, you guessed it right. That dog man Lu Wenyan is currently inviting the male protagonists in the video at the Luxury Orchid Club. This is to help Mo Rujin with the aftermath. Come on." Luo Yunshu was taken aback for a moment. Although she had predicted that the husband who was engaged in both physical and hidden marriages would protect Mo Rujin, she did not expect to protect her so thoroughly. He is going to do his best to help that little slut. Ha! Sure enough, Mo Rujin is the woman he has placed on his heart. Wait, I need to dress up well. After replying, Luo Yunshu walked into the cloakroom and chose a black suit in the style of an imperial sister. The set perfectly fits her delicate and graceful body curves, with countless gestures and indescribable charm. When Anran saw her, her eyes lit up and she said, "Yunshu, you really gave me a big surprise. It turns out that your figure is so good. Why did you hide it before? Such good capital should be displayed." Grasping her arm, he continued, "Let's go, tonight we'll explode the entire venue and become the most beautiful queen in the Luxury Orchid Club." Luo Yunshu curled her lips, she came to indulge tonight. Since Lu Wenyan wants to preserve Mo Rujin, then it's better to preserve him. He's not particular, so no wonder she gave him a colored hat. The appearance of Luo Yunshu quickly caught the attention of the men around her, with hot and burning gazes cast at her, and the sound of chatting up rang in her ears. She was like a queen, patrolling the men who worshipped her, and in the end, she chose a young male college student. And Ran smiled as a foil, watching the two people push cups and change cups. Soon, Luo Yunshu fell into a slightly tipsy state. Hot dance music is playing. And Ran whispered in her ear, Yunshu, the dance music specially prepared for you. Tonight, you are the queen. Luo Yunshu nodded and walked onto the stage with a smile, dancing his graceful waist to the rhythm of the music. In college, there was a popular saying. Luo Yunshu's waist is the knife that takes a man's life. Nowadays, her dance moves are even more charming, and cheers occasionally come from the dance floor. Everyone's gaze was deeply drawn to her. Suddenly, the music stopped and the lights went to their darkest. Before Luo Yunshu could fully recover from the dance music, he was lifted up by the rushing black figure. Ah! Luo Yunshu screamed, pounding the black figure with both hands. Let go of me, let go of me. Shut up, the man roared angrily. Luo Yunshu recognized the voice of her husband, Lu Wenyan, who often didn't go home, and said with hatred, Dog man, let go of me. I'm here to tell you tonight. There are plenty of men who like me. If you like Mo Rujin's bus, go like it. I don't care. The dog man actually let go of her and passionately kissed her when she was dizzy and disoriented. Luo Yunshu killed himself to hammer him and bite him, but he was as stable as a mountain. During the gap between breaths, the dog man looked at the woman with a sinister gaze and a sharp tone, with a hint of destruction. Luo Yunshu, if you don't want me to stab you and then stab myself, you should be honest. Luo Yunshu was suppressed, and soon she realized that she wanted to run, but was picked up horizontally by the dog man and walked towards the private elevator. Lu Wenyan has his own exclusive suite on the top floor here. And Ran wanted to step forward and stop, but was scared away by the man's gaze. Luo Yunshu also shook his head at her, signaling that she should not show off. Anran could only watch as the couple left. As soon as the suite door opened, she was pressed against the wall at the entrance by the man and forcefully kissed her again. Under the influence of alcohol, Luo Yunshu resisted without any deterrence. The man gradually gained the initiative and led her towards the unknown world. At the last moment, Luo Yunshu suddenly woke up. She pushed the man away forcefully and shouted at him, Lu Wenyan, don't touch me, I find it dirty. After shouting, he turned around and ran out. It was raining rainstorm outside, Luo Yunshu was wet by the rain, and his brain gradually became clear. And Ran's call came at this moment, taking her back to Yoranju. The two were completely drunk while cursing at the dog man. When Lu Wenyan returned, he saw two drunken women lying in bed, holding each other and sleeping soundly. He stood beside, looked at it for a long time, then turned around and left. Luo Yunshu and Anran woke up from a hangover, ate and continued to sleep, and it was already the evening of the next day when they woke up again. Two people kneaded their severely painful temples and got up to wash up. It wasn't until dinner that I felt much more comfortable. Luo Yunshu brewed another pot of tea to sober up and relieve the greasiness, and the two of them drank it together. Anran opened her phone and wanted to see where Mo Rujin's situation had progressed. She was so angry that she almost sent herself away. A few days ago, the entire internet was condemning various reports, posts, Weibo posts, and comments that banned the notorious artist Mo Rujin. The exposed videos and photos also disappeared completely, replaced by various whitewashing reports and comments. The most shocking thing is that in the video, the male protagonists teamed up to sign and deny having an affair with Mo Rujin. The online video was taken by someone maliciously using AI to change their faces. Those wealthy tycoons also remained silent and never mentioned the matter of being banned again. As for other negative reports, they have also been replaced with dedicated, serious, and humble positive reports. Famous directors in the Chinese film and television industry even threw an olive branch at Mo Rujin to support her character. For a moment, the internet was filled with praises for Mo Rujin. Ayn Rand was so angry that she dropped her phone. This dog man is really going to anger me. Luo Yunshu held the teacup and stared blankly at the ripples in it. After a while, he calmly spoke up, after all, I still couldn't defeat Mo Rujin. Her gold lord is so powerful. After laughing for a moment, he continued, I married her benefactor in the first place to use her family's connections to undermine her. Unexpectedly, I lost, and it turned out to be her benefactor, my husband, who caused me to lose. It's not ridiculous. Ayn Rand felt sorry and said, Yunshu, let's find another chance. If we can't do it this time, we'll do it next time. Luo Yunshu's hand, holding the teacup, trembled as he said, this time, so many solid hammers won't kill her. The next time, it will be even more uncertain. Ayn Rand covered her friend's shoulder and said, Yunshu, we won't be discouraged. If it's not clear, we'll come in the dark. I know Gu Sange from Xiangcheng, he's a person who can be called a good name in the whole country of China. If we have the opportunity, we'll go and pay our respects. Yunshu, there's a premise. Do you still want to maintain this marriage with Lu Wenyan? He asked again. Chapter 2. Let's divorce. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Without hesitation, Luo Yunshu said, yes, why not? This position is something that Mo Rujin has been longing for and cannot obtain. Why should I give it up? Occupying this position is also a blow to her. Okay, no matter what decision you make, I will support you. Ayn Rand. Luo Yunshu's tears, which he had been holding back for a long time, burst into his eyes, and the sourness in his heart reached boiling point. God still loves her, and she has such a good friend by her side to support her. Silly girl, big silly girl. Ayn Rand wiped away her tears. The two hugged each other, crying together. After crying, Ayn Rand proposed to continue drinking at Jiaqing Bar. Luo Yunshu readily agreed. The two of them had just arrived at the Qingba, and the owner of the Qingba came over to apologize in person. I'm really sorry, both of you. This place has been taken over by the Lu family tonight and will no longer be open to the public. Ayn Rand's face immediately turned cold upon hearing this. Lu family, which Lu family? Can it be that the Lu family is the richest in the southern city? The Qingba boss nodded and said, exactly. Luo Yunshu vaguely guessed the purpose of being wrapped up here and said, can you tell me what I'm doing here? Qingba boss. It's to celebrate the successful entry of Mo Rujin's new drama as a big star. May I ask if this is the venue that the second young master of the Lu family has taken care of? Luo Yun said, feeling a mix of flavors in his heart, yes. Ayn Rand immediately became furious and said, go in, Yunshu. I don't believe it anymore. You, as a legitimate player, can still be compared to a mediocre third player. Luo Yunshu stopped her and said, don't worry, someone will invite us in. The conversation turned to the owner of Qingba, could you please consult Miss Mo Rujin and say that Luo Yunshu is outside. The owner of Qingba also saw that the two ladies in front of him were either wealthy or wealthy, and it was not easy to refuse directly, so he agreed in one fell swoop. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Mo Rujin walked out in a red dress adorned with broken diamonds, swaying gracefully. Her eyes were full of hope, and her voice was filled with a sense of pride that couldn't be concealed. Oh, it's my sister who came over. If there's any distance, please forgive me. Luo Yunshu quickly ordered himself to enter a combat state, correcting her with a smile. It's two sisters, Rujin. This is Miss Ayn Rand, the daughter of the In group. Mo Rujin apologized with a smile, it's my fault, Sister Anran. You must understand. Anran sneered, sister is sister, always above sister. Since she is in a higher position, of course she will not have the same understanding as someone in a lower position. Mo Rujin's face changed and soon returned to a smile. Sister Anran said, as a younger sister, listen carefully. Speaking of this, I really want to thank Sister Yunshu. If it weren't for her finding me a strong brother. Law, I wouldn't have been crying anywhere today. How could I have such good luck to have a grand performance here and be sought after by people? He also said, the most crucial thing is that my brother. Law will come over to support me in person later. I told my brother. Law and called for my sister to come, but he must have been too busy and forgot to say it. However, the heavens will arrange for me to come here myself. Quickly, please come in, two sisters. Luo Yunshu held down and ran and wanted to fan Mo Rujin's hand, laughing, then please ask Mo Rujin, the big star, to lead the way. Mo Rujin smiled and made a gesture of please. Anran took her friend's arm and joked, Yunshu, don't even mention that Miss Mo's attire, and figure really fit the image of a etiquette lady. I think Miss Mo is quite suitable for this profession. Anran lightly patted her mouth and then said, look at my mouth. The etiquette ladies are all innocent girls, and life is as simple as a blank sheet of paper, which cannot compare to Miss Mo's wonderful and unparalleled life. Luo Yunshu cooperated with his friend and said, Anran, the wine you drank yesterday hasn't woken up yet. Miss Mo is a big star, can life be wonderful and unparalleled? You can compare a pure girl to her, and there is no comparison between the two. Anran smiled and said, yes, you're right. I just had a mental cramp. Comparing a dusty pearl with a pure white pearl, even a discerning person can distinguish it clearly. Why don't you use my words? Mo Rujin, who was walking sideways, was burning with anger and unable to erupt, so she could only pretend not to hear. 3 people took the exclusive elevator to the top floor. The entire outdoor platform is decorated in a luxurious manner, with top chefs busy at the buffet point, the bar next to it is filled with various valuable drinks, and the bartender is mixing the drinks. At this time, the crowd was concentrated at the boundless swimming pool, and many of them were circle friends invited by Mo Rujin, Sister Yunshu and Sister Anran. You can do whatever you want. Mo Rujin paused and pointed to the changing room at the corner when she saw what they were wearing. There are various high-end dresses there, and if you don't mind, you can go there and choose from them. They are all arranged by your brother. Law to send them over. Anran wanted to slap her again, but was stopped by her friend again. We know now, Miss Mo, go ahead and get busy, she said. Mo Rujin smiled and nodded, then turned around and left. Luo Yunshu led his friend to the bar, grabbed 2 cocktails, and sat down in a relatively secluded corner, watching the group of young people play. Anran couldn't help feeling angry and said, Yunshu, I can shake people now. Let's smash this and I'll lose money. Luo Yunshu took a sip of wine and his eyes remained calm. It's not worth ruining one's reputation for such a woman, he said, you're just too tolerant. As soon as Anran finished speaking, the crowd exclaimed in surprise. It turned out that the unmanned aerial unit lighting show had begun, with various patterns and texts alternating. Finally, there was a portrait of Mo Rujin, and the 3 characters Lu Wenyan were inscribed in the lower right corner. Rujin, is Lu Ershao too fond of you? I heard he is currently auctioning off sky-high priced jewelry for you at an auction. Really? This is also too enviable. Lu Ershao is not only handsome and wealthy, but most importantly, he is willing to spend money for you. Rujin, your luck is also too good. Quickly, tell me how you managed to win Lu Ershao's heart. Anran stood up in anger, deeply stimulated by Mo Rujin's petty expression. Who can bear it? Yunshu, I can't bear it anymore. I'm going to smash this place, she said. Luo Yunshu's face remained calm as she stood up and pressed down on her friend's shoulder. You sit down, I came here just to watch the play. The play hasn't reached its climax yet, so why are you in a hurry? When the male protagonists are all here, let's make another fuss and then we'll be relieved. Ayn Rand's eyes turned red and she said, I can't be angry, Yunshu, I can't be angry. Why is it that Lu Wenyan doesn't give you face? You are his legitimate wife who has been registered before. He not only doesn't give you a wedding, but also forms a hidden marriage. This is not playing tricks on you. Luo Yunshu remembered the conversation between the two on their wedding night, and in fact, she proposed the concept of formal marriage and hidden marriage. She is leaving herself a way out. If one day doesn't pass, it will be over once she leaves. If it weren't for Lu Wenyan's insistence on registration, she wouldn't have gone to register. Cheers from the crowd interrupted Luo Yunshu's memories. Chapter 3. He fainted. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's special. Ayn Rand drank up the wine in her glass in one gulp and started to curse. Lu Wenyan, this dog man, is really willing. This fireworks show is worth 10 million yuan. Luo Yunshu ignored the bitterness in his heart and looked up at the colorful and diverse fireworks, trying to turn back his tears and flow them into his heart. After the fireworks display, the helicopter that Lu Wenyan was riding on gradually approached the tarmac here, and everyone was looking forward to the perfect man like Apollo stepping off the helicopter. At the moment when Lu Wenyan came down, the last bit of hope in Luo Yunshu's heart disappeared completely. He still came, in order to praise Mo Rujin. He was so high-profile, so indifferent to the impact of this matter on the Lu family, so indifferent to her face and feelings. Wenyan. Mo Rujin stepped forward and grabbed his arm, his small face full of admiration. Zhou Zhou is Lu Wenyan's assistant, following closely behind, holding a beautifully packaged gift box in his hand. Lu Wenyan reached out to him and Zhou Zhou handed it over with both hands. The man opened the jewelry box and found a set of pink and diamond jewelry chains, which were very rare and beautiful. Someone recognized, oh my goodness, isn't this the exclusive possession of European royal princesses? This is the only set in the world, it's a unique item, it's priceless. Other screams of surprise followed one after another. Mo Rujin couldn't help but kiss the man. The man knew about his wife's existence early on, which was also the reason he came to the scene. He wanted to deliberately avoid this kiss. But his body was much more honest than his brain, so he managed to avoid it. But from Luo Yunshu's perspective, this kiss landed on his face. The crowd echoed with cheers of admiration. Lu Ershao and Rujin are a great match. Yeah, they are a pair of talented people. I really envy others. Mo Rujin leaned against Lu Wenyan with a shy expression on her face, and her heart was filled with joy. This man is being so kind to her for the first time. If it had been before, she wouldn't have been able to get close to him. Lu Wenyan's body was stiff and uncomfortable, as if he had been contaminated with something dirty. If it had been before this, he would have pushed Mo Rujin as far as possible. No, he wouldn't even appear in such an occasion. But this time, his wife is here, and he wants to see how long she can hold on. Luo Yunshu walked forward with a calm tone, as if conducting an interview. Lu Ershao praised Miss Mo so much. Have you ever thought of helping her rise to the throne and become the second young lady of the Lu family? Lu Wenyan's pupils tightened for a moment, his heart tingling, but his face remained calm. This lady, are you so interested in my personal issues? I'll go. Ayn Rand couldn't help but drop her glass and then started smashing everything else she could. Ah, the delicate women began to exclaim loudly, and the men frowned. Security personnel approached but were stopped by Zhou Zhou. Ayn Rand became addicted to smashing bottles of expensive alcohol onto the ground. Pai Li Pa, Luo Yunshu didn't move, and Lu Wenyan didn't either. The two were staring at each other. Mo Rujin secretly clenched her fists, making it difficult for her to come forward and tear off Ayn Rand. Lu Wenyan was the first to lose the battle and lowered his gaze. The woman's gaze was too cold, freezing his heart and making his breathing ache. "Anren, that's enough, let's go." After a while, Luo Yunshu's gaze chased his friend and said to her. Anren casually smashed the food again before walking towards her friend. The elevator that had no choice but to get down still needed a special elevator card, and the two of them didn't. Mo Rujin looked at the mess and looked at Lu Wenyan with a pleading gaze. Lu Wenyan's tense body suddenly relaxed, and he stumbled a few steps before finally standing firm. He walked towards his wife and ran and said, "Miss An, don't you need to compensate for smashing something?" And Ran sneered, "Of course we have to compensate. Mr. Lu Ershao has determined the damage and will go to Anne's house to claim reimbursement from me. I will provide double the compensation." Mo Rujin said in her words, "Wenyan, let's just forget about it. I just thought it was Sister and Ran celebrating for me." Luo Yunshu ignored her and turned his gaze to her husband, "And Ran did this because of me. I will compensate." And Ran pulled her and said, "One person does things, one person takes responsibility. I'll compensate." Lu Wenyan asked his wife, "How do you want to compensate?" Mo Rujin continued his tea talk and said, "All right, Sister Yunshu, today's brawl was supposed to be a celebration. Don't make things complicated, let's have a glass of wine and laugh off our grudges. How about that?" The conversation turned to Lu Wenyan, with pleading in his words, "Wenyan, I'll just compensate for these losses. Don't make things difficult for the two sisters." Lu Wenyan pushed her away and persisted in asking his wife, "How do you want to compensate?" After his wife married him, the Lu family did not allow her to work outside, so she could only stay at home. The Lu family took care of her clothing, food, housing, and transportation, and she had no income. The Lu family offered her a dowry, but it was all swallowed by her father.in.law. She didn't have a dowry and all the money she had was given to her mother.in.law. After marriage, he only gave her 10,000 yuan in pocket money per month. "I will sell my car and should be able to compensate." Lu Wenyan sneered and interrupted her, "It's not enough to compensate for those few bottles of wine." And Ran angrily said, "Lu Wenyan, you've had enough. You said I'll compensate. A dog man who knows his friend's financial situation is still so aggressive is really tough." Luo Yunshu's inherent pride did not allow her to bow down to the man. "Why don't Lu Er come up with a plan less?" Using the method mentioned by Ru Jin, if you drink a bottle of wine, it's like celebrating her new life, and the compensation will be written off. Lu Wenyan has a somewhat aggressive demeanor. He just wants her to bow down and show her who is in charge. He dared to go to the nightclub to dance and find a little puppy. He couldn't bear to provoke him like this. Mo Rujin had already walked to the bar, gesturing for the bartender to take out the red wine she had prepared in advance with added ingredients, and Sher Shiran walked back. Luo Yunshu's thorns all over her body were stimulated by her husband. "Okay, I'll drink." And Ran angrily snatched the wine from her friend's hand and said, "Lu Wenyan, you bastard." Lu Wenyan looked at his wife and said, "Miss An, the An family still doesn't have the ability to confront the Lu family head. On. You've figured it out. Lu Ershao keeps his word," Luo Yunshu said with a mocking smile. Of course, Lu Wenyan clenched his fists to himself. "Okay, I'll drink." Luo Yunshu picked up the red wine bottle and drank it directly. Lu Wenyan gently closed his eyes, then opened them again, his heart twisted like a knife. This woman is like this, she never gives in, never gets into trouble with him, no matter how outrageous things he does, she can face them calmly. Sometimes, he really wants to see if one day he dies, she will also be so calm. And Ran cried with heartache, "Yunshu, stop drinking, it's all my fault." Lu Wenyan also felt very sorry and took the red wine from her hand. "That's enough, it's okay, you can go now," he said. Luo Yunshu choked and coughed violently. Lu Wenyan tightly controlled his attempt to hold her in his arms, strode past her, and walked straight towards the elevator. Wenyan. Mo Rujin looked at the man pitifully, wanting to keep him. Lu Wenyan was not unmoved. Let's go, I promise you, and I will fulfill it. Mo Rujin secretly regretted and was extremely anxious. Her plan was to throw the drugged Luo Yunshu to the man she had arranged in advance. Alright now, she's leaving with Lu Wenyan. It's not a cheap deal for her. On second thought, things had already turned out like this. She might as well be a smooth-sailing person who could demonstrate her gentleness and thoughtfulness, and wash away her suspicions. She took out her phone and found Lu Wenyan's WeChat account. Wenyan, I'm really sorry, I seem to have had some trouble. I just added some ingredients to the red wine I gave to Sister Yunshu, and I wanted to take this opportunity to further strengthen your relationship. There is no malice. I apologize again. Chapter 4. Consequences of Car Accidents. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Luo Yunshu felt unbearable heat all over his body, feeling very uncomfortable, and had to lean on his friend. Anran, let's go quickly, he said. Let's go now, Anran said as the red wine became stronger. The elevator opened, and Lu Wenyan walked in first, followed closely by Zhou Zhou. Anran helped her friend follow in. The narrow elevator was filled with red wine and the fragrance of women, and Lu Wenyan was too greedy for her scent. A prompt sound came from a private WeChat account, and when Lu Wenyan saw the WeChat message Mo Rujin had sent to him, his eyes suddenly darkened. Proud and delicate like him, he disdained such a way, but if this person is a wife, he is willing to. Faced with her, he always lowers the bottom line repeatedly. Anran, it's so hot, I feel so uncomfortable. Luo Yunshu's rationality was gradually eroded by the medicine, and his hands couldn't help but tear at his clothes. It's summer now, and the clothes themselves are thin. If you tear them off, they will be exposed. Anran and Zhou Zhou both realized something was wrong and instinctively glanced at each other. The elevator reaches the negative first floor at this time. Lu Wenyan. Missin, Yunshu is my lawful wife, and I can take her away. Anran ignored him and patted his friend's face. Yunshu, how are you? Luo Yunshu's eyes were blurred and his expression was dazed, making it difficult to distinguish who was who. Give her to me. Lu Wenyan snatched his wife from Anran's hand. Zhou Zhou immediately handed over the car key with eyes on his face. Lu Wenyan took it over, picked up his wife horizontally, walked towards the parking space, stuffed her into the back seat, and secured her with a seat belt. This is very close to the Heelan Club, it's a 5-minute drive. When he carried his wife into a private elevator, the woman's efficacy reached its peak, and she was like a person about to die of thirst getting a water source, holding onto the man and gnawing on it. Lu Wenyan surrendered instantly. He had been longing for this woman for a long time. But when he heard the woman shouting the name Zhong Hanhe in her mouth, all his passionate emotions instantly turned into nothing, and the frustration and pain in his heart left him completely irrational. He was like a crazy lion, pulling up a passionate woman and entering the restroom. Turn on the shower head, the cold water will pour the woman's heart cold. Ah! Luo Yunshu was frozen by the cool air and kept avoiding. Lu Wenyan pulled her into his arms, and the cold water washed over the two of them. The dryness and heat in Luo Yunshu's body were relieved, and his consciousness began to clear up. After seeing that it was Lu Wenyan, she struggled to escape him and said, "Let go of me, you crazy person." Lu Wenyan laughed wildly and said, "It's really crazy enough. How could he fight against his grandfather, fight against his parents, refuse to let him marry, and then he will die? Not crazy, how could you have been longing for her for so many years? But this woman only has Zhong Hanhe in her heart." Luo Yunshu reached out to grab the showerhead from the man's hand and said, "Stop, you bastard." Lu Wenyan turned off the showerhead and threw it forcefully onto the ground. Step forward and press the woman against the wall, kissing her forcefully. Luo Yunshu thought of Mo Rujin and felt that he was very dirty. He tried desperately to push him away, but to no avail, so he had to bite him. He seemed to have no pain, still kissing her. I didn't let her go until I felt her breathing was slow. Lu Wenyan looked at her with both anger and unbearable pain in his eyes. Luo Yunshu, how are you? Leaving this sentence behind, he walked away without looking back. Not long, Anran walked in with Xiao Ming and gave her an injection. Struggling until the latter half of the night, Luo Yunshu developed a high fever, and Anran took care of him for most of the night. The next day when I woke up, a bigger news hit Luo Yunshu hard, pressing her face down and rubbing against the ground. In order to completely stabilize Mo Rujin's position, Lu Wenyan did not hesitate to empty all his family funds and shook the core interests of the Lu group. This news was unexpectedly reported. If it weren't for Lu Wenyan's involvement, how could it have fermented? For a moment, Mo Rujin was unstoppable and became the envy of everyone. Many media outlets predict that she will be the future second young lady of the Lu family. The ambiguous photos of Lu Wenyan and Mo Rujin that were secretly taken appeared in the public eye like snowflakes. As Luo Yunshu watched her husband give everything for this woman, he thought of his monthly allowance of 10,000 yuan. She burst out laughing, and apart from having a broken marriage certificate, she couldn't compare to Mo Rujin. During her time in college, when Mo Rujin was enjoying the top resources her father had brought her, she was working hard to earn scholarships, working part-time, and thinking about how to calm her mother's emotions now. Her position as the second young lady of the Lu family has been snatched by herself, but so what? She is still being pursued by her husband, which is real gold and silver, worth billions of dollars. Destruction, let's all perish together. Luo Yunshu urgently held a press conference to announce the fact of her marriage to Lu Wenyan. She didn't say anything and allowed the media to fabricate and write about her as climbing onto the bed of the second young master of the Lu family, forcing the second young master of the Lu family to obtain a certificate from her. If Lu Ershao loves her, how could he not give her a wedding, not announce to the public that he is married, and still praise other women so much? She is also jokingly referred to as the Ninja Turtle. Due to this incident, Lu Wenyan's image was damaged, leading to a sharp drop in the stock price of the Lu group. The board of directors collectively impeached him and ordered him to step down. Mr. Lu was furious and the Lu family was in chaos. Luo Yunshu didn't care and hid in Anran's house to seek leisure. When Lu Mu called, the two of them had just arrived at Qingba and ordered wine. Yunshu, where are you? Come back quickly. Wenyan asked your grandfather to call him to the study to enforce family rules. Your father and I couldn't persuade him. Lu Mu's voice revealed an unprecedented level of anxiety and heartache. Luo Yunshu paused for a moment. She didn't want to go back, but she said, Mom, I'll be back soon. After hanging up the phone, she drank all the agave in front of her in one gulp, and the anger that surged in her heart still lingered. Anran, let's contact again. My mother-in-law called me and asked me to go back to my old house. Anran held her chin in her right hand and looked at her with a hazy expression, showing a lazy smile. Yunshu, I'm always there, she said. I know, Luo Yunshu said in a gentle tone as he grabbed her thin shoulder. As soon as the words fell, Luo Yunshu picked up his handbag and his tall figure walked away. Anran kept seeing her figure disappear at the entrance of the Qingba, and then lifted the tequila on her right hand and shook it. Halfway through Luo Yunshu's journey, the sky suddenly darkened and raindrops as big as beans poured down in an instant. Her driving skills are just average, and she couldn't dodge and directly hit the car in front of her. With a loud bang, even with the sound of rain covering up, one could still hear the loud impact. She is wearing a seatbelt and not injured. A tall man holding a black umbrella walked down and knocked on her car window. Luo Yunshu was still in shock and instinctively got out of the car, but his umbrella didn't even hold up. Chapter 5. Dreaming of White Moonlight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The man kindly handed the umbrella over to shield her from the rain. Luo Yunshu looked through the rain curtain at the long queues of vehicles behind the car, with impatient drivers honking their horns. Let's go private. After Luo Yunshu finished speaking, he opened the car door and opened the double flash, while also taking out an umbrella to prop it up. Then she walked to the trunk and took out the tripod. Seeing that the car behind her was following closely, she put the tripod back in place. The man patiently waited for her to finish her busy work and nodded slightly at her. Please wait a moment. He stepped forward to seek advice from the person in the back seat, with an extremely humble and respectful attitude. Not much. A man's hand with distinct joints and fair skin was extended, and a card resembling a business card was held between his middle and index fingers. This is Mr. S. business card. After determining the damage, please contact him again to discuss compensation. Also, please write down your phone number for me. Luo Yunshu took the business card and nodded. Don't worry, you can compensate as much as you need. After speaking, write your phone number on the business card, take a photo, and hand it to the man. The man was stunned for a moment, wondering if the woman knew how valuable the gentleman's business card was, which was beyond the reach of ordinary people. Luo Yunshu saw that he didn't answer, so he stuffed the business card into his hand again. The man took it, nodded politely, and turned around to leave. Only then did Luo Yunshu see clearly that she had collided with a Cullinan and her face turned pale. Although she is the second daughter-in-law of the top-tier wealthy Lu family, she is really poor, with only 10,000 yuan in pocket money per month. If I had known I had taken insurance, I really wanted to cry without tears. Lu's mother called again, but she didn't urge her. She even reminded her to drive slowly when the rain was heavy. Luo Yunshu could only agree with a bitter smile, feeling restless as he started driving. When she got home, no one cared about how her car was. Lu Mu grabbed her hand and walked towards the northeast corner study on the first floor. Hurry up, only you can save Wen, she said. Luo Yunshu drove the ducks onto the shelves and was pushed into the study. She smelled a faint smell of blood, and there were also a few bloodstains on her grandfather's soft whip. It seems that Lu Wenyan has already been subjected to family law enforcement. Her arrival did not stop Grandpa's soft whip in his hand. Lu Wenyan knelt straight, whipping and continuing to suffer. Since Lu Mu was in a hurry and called for her to come back, there was still some superficial effort to be done. Luo Yunshu dared not take Grandpa's soft whip, so he could only gently advise, "Grandpa, stop beating." Mr. Lu said with a strong sense of anger, "Don't worry, he should bear to act recklessly without considering the overall situation." "Grandpa," Luo Yunshu felt anxious and rushed behind Lu Wenyan, Su supporting his shoulders. "I thought I was going to receive this whip, but to my surprise, Lu Wenyan reacted extremely quickly and protected her in his arms, and the whip hit him again. Upon seeing this, Grandpa Lu shouted, "Yunshu, go away. If you don't teach this little brat a lesson today, he won't know his identity." "Grandpa, Grandpa." Luo Yunshu knelt down and begged, "We can't fight anymore. We really can't fight anymore. He's already injured. Please, please." Someone remained unmoved and even kicked her out. "You go out, you don't have to worry." Luo Yunshu wished to slap him a few times, but for the sake of her mother-in-law's face, she could only endure it. "Don't talk." The conversation turned to Mr. Lu, who continued to plead, "Grandpa, the lesson is enough. If we fight again, we'll go to the hospital." Mr. Lu looked at his grandson's somewhat pale face, and it was false that he didn't feel sorry in his heart. He closed his eyes and let out a heavy sigh. "Well, kneel here for 2 hours, think to the wall before leaving." "Grandpa, don't worry, I'll supervise him." Luo Yunshu nodded fiercely. Mr. Lu picked up the cane next to his desk, sighed again, didn't say anything, and walked out. "I'll go get the medicine box, please hold on for a while." As Luo Yunshu was about to stand up, he was grabbed by Lu Wenyan's finger. His fingers were slightly cold and his tone was a bit weak. "Please plead for me, it's because of Mom. Mom called you for help," he said. Luo Yunshu shook off his hand and said, since you know, why don't you ask? Her movements pulled on the wound on her body, causing a scorching pain. Lu Wenyan sneered at himself and said, you don't need to worry, you go. Luo Yunshu looked down at him from a high position and said, do you think I want to take care of it? I just don't want to make Mom uncomfortable. Putting aside this sentence, she strode out. Lu Mu had been waiting at the door with a medicine box in hand for a long time. When she came out, she quickly handed it over and said, Yunshu, thank you very much. Luo Yunshu took it over and nodded obediently. Mom, don't worry, it's just a skin injury. Lu Mu patted her shoulder with a slightly choked tone and said, sigh, child, Mom knows you've been wronged. Just trust Mom again, Wen Yan will improve in the future. Luo Yunshu suppressed his displeasure with a gentle smile on his face and said, I remember all my mother's kindness to me in my heart. Lu's mother was satisfied with her performance and sent her sugar-coated bullets. Good, Mom transferred some money to you. You can buy whatever you want. Luo Yunshu smiled and nodded, thank you, Mom. When she turned around again, the smile immediately disappeared from her face, leaving only indifference. When drugging Lu Wenyan, Luo Yunshu's mind was filled with other thoughts. When she got married, her vampire father cut off the dowry from the Lu family, leaving no trace of the dowry. The Lu family felt ashamed and didn't even have a wedding. It can be imagined that Luo Yunshu's position in the mother-in-law's family is polite and never gives her sincere warmth. The most infuriating thing is still Lu Wenyan's attitude, which is extremely cold. She managed to get 10,000 yuan in pocket money a month from him through reasonable arguments. As for other jewelry, high-end clothing, bags, etc., they are all kept by the butler, and when necessary, they will be taken out to decorate her appearance, to show that the Lu family has not mistreated her. If you don't want to drug me, just leave and don't seek personal revenge. Lu Wenyan's cold voice interrupted Luo Yunshu's thoughts. Luo Yunshu apologized and his hand movements eased. I'm sorry, I'll be gentle. The two fell silent, and in the study, only the sound of each other's breathing remained quiet. Luo Yunshu looked at the wound bleeding, and it must have hurt to wipe it with disinfectant alcohol, but Lu Wenyan seemed unconscious and quiet like a stone. Rujin is not someone you can move. As long as I'm here, you can never move her, said Lu Wenyan with a self-deprecating anger. Luo Yunshu didn't react, as if he hadn't heard his words. Lu Wenyan became angry and grabbed her wrist with his back hand. That's enough, there's no need to apply medicine anymore. You go out, he said. Luo Yunshu couldn't break free and decided to let him hold it, his autumn pupils slowly covered in cold ice. Since you let me go, please let go of my hand, he said. Lu Wenyan's gaze was as deep as the mouth of an abyss, and he looked straight at her. After a long time, he asked, Luo Yunshu, don't you want to hear me explain? Luo Yunshu curled his lips and showed a sarcastic smile. What's there to explain? If you want to do it, and I can't stop it. As for why your grandfather used the family law, you know in your heart that it's not because of me. Chapter 6. She wants to seize Mrs. Lu's identity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lu Wenyan fixed his gaze on her, then lowered his gaze and did not speak or drive her out again. Luo Yunshu quickly sorted out his emotions and continued to administer medication to him. The study is quiet again. Lu Wenyan, the medicine is good now. Luo Yunshu saw him sinking into his own emotions like an old monk, shouting a few words but not responding, so he couldn't help but push him a few more times. Lu Wenyan came to his senses and said, thank you. You can go back to Yueran residence. I'm staying here tonight. Do you think Mom will let me go back? She called me here to take care of you, Luo Yunshu said while packing up the medicine box. Thank you for your hard work. Thinking of his situation, Lu Wenyan Jun's face showed a broken expression and continued, I have been expelled from the board of directors. I am now an unemployed vagrant, and my assets have been frozen and taken back by my grandfather. I'm afraid you won't be able to pay me 10,000 yuan per month on time. After speaking, she suddenly felt a sense of revenge in her heart. He had nothing left, and she couldn't get anything. Luo Yunshu closed the lid of the medicine box, his fingers twitched slightly, and his face remained calm. I understand, I will go out to find a job. You can advise the elders on this matter. I will go out now to prepare food for you. Lu Wenyan took her hand again, his gaze lowered, not looking at her, his voice filled with despair. Yunshu, you're so calm because you didn't take me to heart, right? Luo Yunshu really wanted to curse, so he rubbed her face against the ground. Now he still wants to rake it upside down, saying that she didn't take him to heart. Let go, I don't want to argue with you. Lu Wenyan slowly let go of his hand, as if trying to strip the woman from his own heart. When he looked up at her again, his eyes turned slightly red and he said, Luo Yunshu, let's get divorced. Luo Yunshu clenched his fists and was burning with anger. This man's anger towards the crown and his beauty must have already spread in the wealthy circles of the southern city. Her pseudonymous Mrs. Lu not only has a pale face, but also faces ridicule. Now I have to be kicked out of the house. Sadly, her proud self-esteem did not allow her to refuse. Yes, you can tell the elders about this. Luo Yunshu's attitude was like a soft whip in his grandfather's hand hitting Lu Wenyan's heart, causing sharp pain that reached his limbs but was helpless. Lu Wenyan knelt straight again, his body tense, causing the wound to tear even wider. I will persuade them, he said. Luo Yunshu's eyes turned cold and said, then I'll leave first. A slight sound of closing the door came, and Lu Wenyan chuckled and punched the floor, causing a tear to fall and a sharp pain in his heart. Lu Mu saw Luo Yunshu carrying a medicine box into the living room and smiled as she stood up to greet her. She took her medicine box and said, Yunshu, you've taken the good medicine. Yes, Auntie. Auntie, said Lu Mu in surprise. Luo Yunshu smiled and nodded, Aunt. Wenyan just proposed a divorce, and I agreed. I will confiscate the money you just transferred to me, and it will be automatically refunded when the time comes. The divorce procedures will be processed when Wenyan is well, and I will leave first. Wait a minute, marriage is not just a child's play. Wenyan's mind is not clear now, he's talking nonsense. Don't take it lightly with him, Lu Mu said repeatedly. I believe he has carefully considered it, Luo Yunshu said with a calm and composed demeanor and a picturesque expression. Lu's mother spoke urgently, what's so thoughtful, Yunshu? You have to believe me. When Wenyan first proposed to us to marry you, he was really happy. I have never seen him so devoted to any girl before. He loves you. Upon hearing this, Luo Yunshu only wanted to hee-hee, as she had never felt the love of Lu Wenyan. It is evident from what he has done that he has a deep love for Mo Rujin. The appetite of those wealthy generations in the southern city is not small. They can quickly whitewash Mo Rujin, and the money spent by Lu Wenyan is astronomical. Who would believe that they can do such a thing for a woman and say they don't love her? Madam, dinner is ready. The butler came out in time to break the awkwardness in this room. Lu Mu nodded and said, I understand. Go and invite Dad, sir. The butler takes orders to go down. Yunshu, Lu Mu took her slightly cold hand and sat down on the sofa together, continuing to advise. I know what I'm saying now, you won't believe it. You've been heartbroken by Wenyan, but I still have to say it. I know my son loves you, otherwise he wouldn't have married you. He has always said since childhood that he will only marry the person he loves in his lifetime. Auntie, I don't think you're clear about it. Now it's Wenyan who wants to. Mr. Lu followed his son out, and when he heard Luo Yunshu call his daughter-in-law this way, he couldn't help but frown. Just as he calmed down, his mood fluctuated again. He interrupted her and said, Auntie, Yunshu, are you confused by that stinky guy Wenyan? Dad, you heard me wrong. Yunshu was shouting. Mom, said Lu Mu, gripping her soft and boneless hand and gesturing in her eyes not to take down the stage. Although Luo Yunshu was uncomfortable, he still gave face to Lu Mu and said, "Yes, Grandpa, I'm calling Mom." Mr. Lu withdrew his gaze from looking at his granddaughter-in-law and said, let's eat." Father's personal butler, Uncle Wang, arranged the main table, and Father Lu helped his father sit down, then walked to his own seat and sat down. Lu Mu sat down with Luo Yunshu. The Lu family strictly adheres to the dining etiquette of eating without words, and after the whole meal, there is only a slight collision of porcelain. For a moment, the meal is over. Lu's mother felt a pang of sadness as she looked at her son's empty seat. Luo Yunshu looked at her grandfather and Father Lu, both of whom had serious expressions, and she dared not bring up the matter of divorce at this moment. After thinking for a moment, Lu Mu ordered, "Yunshu, the cook has prepared another meal for Wen Yan. Take it in and give it to him." Luo Yunshu could only swallow his refusal and nodded obediently. Just as he was about to say it, he was interrupted by Mr. Lu, "No delivery, let him reflect on it in seclusion. If he doesn't realize his mistake, kneel down for me all night." "Dad," Lu's mother choked up with heartache. Mr. Lu stood up with a cane and said, "If you make a mistake, you have to bear it. Don't advise anyone." Wang Bo quickly supported him and walked towards the direction of the courtyard together. Lu's mother looked at Lu's father again and said, "Let's set sail." Lu's father waved his hand, his face serious, and said, "Wen Yan must pay for his mistakes. It's better for his father to teach him a lesson than for outsiders to teach him. I hope he can take it as a warning and not be fooled by another actor." Lu Mu could only secretly wipe away her tears. Wen Yan has been impeached and stepped down, and the situation is a bit chaotic. It will take time for Wen Bo to handle the procedures over there. "I have to stay at the company these days, so please guard your home," said Lu Fu, patting her shoulder to comfort her. Lu Mu nodded, tears streaming down her face as she watched him leave. Luo Yunshu felt like sitting on pins and needles, but it was not easy to leave directly. Lu Mu wiped away her tears and asked her again, "Yunshu, why don't you go and see him again? Your grandfather won't let me into the study." Luo Yunshu frowned slightly and didn't agree. "Don't worry, he's okay." Chapter 7. Encountering the White Moonlight Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing her say this, Lu's mother felt extremely uncomfortable in her heart, but she could only continue playing emotional cards on her face. "Yunshu, I still like you to call me Mom," she said. "Your older brother and sister are both overseas, and there are only 2 children at home, you and Wen Yan. I hope you can be harmonious and beautiful, and I also hope our family can be harmonious and beautiful." Luo Yunshu sneered to himself, "It wasn't your son who caused the trouble." She asked herself that she had not done anything wrong to Lu Wen Yan, but had to endure his cold violence. Now that he had caused trouble, it seemed as if she had hurt him. "Yunshu, could you please take a look at our mother-in-law daughter-in-law relationship and not easily divorce Wen Yan?" Lu Mu began to tear down, and Luo Yunshu took out a tissue and handed it to her, feeling calm in his heart. She was well aware that Lu Mu was considering Lu Wen Yan and the Lu family. In fact, in her heart, marriage is like an exchange of interests for her, and the only purpose for this marriage to continue is to undermine Mo Rujin. Since Lu Mu has already secured this, why don't she just follow the flow and shift all the blame onto Lu Wen Yan? "Uncle. Mom, I promise you to go see Wen Yan." Lu Mu burst into tears and smiled, "Thank you, Yunshu. You're too polite." Luo Yunshu tried to make his expression appear obedient and respectful. "Miss Yun, give the food prepared for the second young master to the second young lady," said Lu Mu to the cook. "Miss Yun has been ready for a long time, just waiting for Madam's order." Luo Yunshu took the tray and Shi Shiran entered the study. The study has a strong disinfectant mixed with a faint smell of blood. Luo Yunshu frowned, the smell reminded her of the hospital. Lu Wen Yan maintained her kneeling position as she left the room, inexplicably making Luo Yunshu feel like a lifeless statue. Suddenly, the man fell forward heavily, but fortunately he instinctively supported the ground with his arms. Luo Yunshu was first surprised, then quickly reacted and quickly placed the tray on the desk to check his condition. Lu Wenyan refused her help and shouted softly, "Get out." Luo Yunshu's outstretched hand stiffened in the air for a few seconds before retracting it, and his anger skyrocketed. "Lu Wenyan, I'm not your emotional trash can," he said after a moment's pause. She deliberately stimulated him again. "If you're stuck here with your grandfather and can't find him, Rujin, when it's time to face the wall, I can take you to her place." Luo Yunshu's next words were blocked by Lu Wenyan's kiss. Luo Yun felt anxious and bit him. He seemed unconscious and didn't stop until the smell of blood spread between the two people. Luo Yunshu pushed him away with all his strength. Without any struggle, Lu Wenyan looked at the woman with a pale face and lifeless eyes. The corners of his lifeless lips curled slightly, and there were bloodstains of injury on the corners of his mouth. His tall body collapsed straight down like that. Luo Yunshu's beautiful eyes shrank rapidly, moving faster than his brain. He stepped forward and pulled his hand, leaning heavily against her thin and weak shoulder. She stumbled a few steps before finally being able to stabilize herself, then quickly pushed him away to make sure he stood firm before taking 2 steps back. "You bastard." Lu Wenyan wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at her with a smile on his face. "Don't provoke any more jerks," he said. No matter how good Luo Yunshu's endurance was, he was so angry that he collapsed. He stepped forward and slapped him, saying, "Lu Wenyan, you've been deceiving people too much." After speaking, he turned around without looking back and left. Lu Wenyan looked at her back, and the suppressed emotions in his eyes were about to overflow. He instinctively reached out to her and shook her in the void. Suddenly, the pain in his chest intensified in an instant, and the intense pain made him fall to the ground. Luo Yunshu opened the door and was about to leave when he heard a loud bang, causing Lu Wenyan to faint. Luo Yunshu had no choice but to go out and call for a family doctor. Upon hearing that her son had fainted, Lu's mother turned pale and panicked, not knowing where to go. It wasn't until she saw the family doctor Qiao Ming and 2 nurses-looking men following Luo Yunshu in that Lu's mother regained her senses. Wenyan, my son." Lu's mother lost her dignified demeanor and cried as she tried to enter. Luo Yunshu grabbed her and said, "Mom, the doctor is in first aid." "What's going on? What's wrong with Wenyan?" With the help of Wang Bo, Grandpa Lu hurriedly rushed over. Lu's mother's emotions did not calm down. Luo Yunshu held her hand and looked at Grandpa Lu. "Grandpa, Wenyan has fainted for some reason." "What?" Mr. Lu's hand trembled a few times. Isn't it? Luo Yun felt relieved and comforted, saying, "It's not your fault, Grandpa. Those wounds were the medicine I put on them, they were all skin injuries. Now, Dr. Qiao is inside. Don't worry, it's okay." Mr. Lu still felt a bit guilty and his eyes were moist. "I just don't want to hit him," he said. "Dad, you're not wrong. If Wenyan makes a mistake, he should bear the consequences. He has always been in good health and will be fine." Lu Mu was comforting, and the 2 nurses led by Qiao Ming came out with stretchers. Lu Wenyan was already awake and lying on top. "Wenyan." Mr. Lu and his mother approached with concern. Lu Wenyan smiled faintly and said, "Grandpa, Mom, I'm fine, don't worry." Qiao Ming followed suit and explained, Wenyan's coma was caused by an urgent attack on his heart. "It's temporary, as long as he takes a good rest, it's okay." "Urgent and heart-wrenching." Lu Mu murmured as she looked at Luo Yunshu standing in the corner, with a hint of resentment in her eyes that could hardly be traced. Mr. Lu followed her gaze and also looked at his granddaughter-in-law. "It's my own fault, it has nothing to do with Yunshu," Lu Wenyan said before calling out to Luo Yunshu. "Yunshu, please accompany me to the central diagnosis and treatment room. Luo Yunshu was thinking about how to explain because of his grandfather's meaningful gaze, and Lu Wenyan helped her out. But she is not grateful to this man, after all, everything is because of him. Yunshu, why are you so stunned? Why don't you come forward and follow me? Lu Mu gave her a push. Luo Yunshu had no choice but to step forward and follow. Mr. Lu and his mother stayed in place and exchanged glances. Xuelan, what do you think? Mr. Lu asked his daughter. Law. Wang Bo retreated with insight. Lu Mu helped the old man land and walked into the tea room next to the study, boiling the water in the center of the earth before answering calmly. Yunshu is not attentive to Wen Yan and is a bit indifferent. Mr. Lu snorted coldly, if it weren't for Wen Yan's stinky little boy begging me, how could she be worthy to enter our Lu family with the help of the Luo family's reputation? Lu Mu scalded the Qing dynasty blue and white porcelain tea cup and said, Wen Yan loves her. What can we do? Now that Wen Yan has caused such a trouble again, it's our fault. I have to coax her, otherwise she will go out and talk recklessly, and we will have no face. It will be even harder for Wen Yan to integrate into this circle in the future. Mr. Lu rested his hands on the carving on his cane, hating that iron was not made of steel. This stinky guy has been spoiled by us. If he has a bit of a broad perspective, he wouldn't do it. Sigh, it's just that. For the sake of Wen Yan, let's just be good to Yunshu for now. Dad, Lu's mother thought for a moment and then revealed the divorce between her son and Luo Yunshu. Chapter 8. Encountering Green Tea Girl again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What, this stinky kid? Mr. Lu coughed up in anger. Dad, don't get excited for now. I'll tell you in advance, but when Wen Yan doesn't want to tell you, it's even harder for you to accept, said Lu Mu, standing up to help Grandpa Lu with his back. Mr. Lu suppressed his cough, so angry that his white beard curled up. Stinky kid, my whip was for nothing. One wave hasn't calmed down, and another wave has risen. He's really my great-grandson. So, Mr. Lu recalled the address he heard before lunch. Yunshu has already told you. Lu Mu nodded and said, I've said it, and it's changing very quickly. Just call me auntie, and I'm very indifferent. I can't see any reluctance towards this marriage. Mr. Lu squinted his eyes and bit his back teeth. Okay, that's great. My descendant of the Lu family, she dares to look down on me. Dad, please calm down first. Lu's mother started washing tea, followed a set of procedures, handed Mr. Lu a cup of red robe with both hands, and then said, this marriage cannot be separated. I will also show my attitude to Wen Yan, but I'm afraid that foolish boy will insist on acting recklessly. Mr. Lu took a sip of tea and said, don't wait for him to tell me. I'll talk to him. You can handle it on Yunshu's end. I know now, Dad. Lu Wenyan's back was remedicated, and Luo Yunshu didn't say a word during this period, just stood by and watched. Xiao Ming looked at her several times, but she didn't look back at him, as if she was lost in her own thoughts. Lu Wenyan didn't want to see her forced to stay here. You go back first, Grandpa, I have my own way of speaking, he said. Luo Yunshu nodded, turned around, and walked straight away. Lu Wenyan's eyes instantly dimmed. Xiao Ming shook his head helplessly while dispensing medicine to Lu Wenyan. This pair of enemies, I really don't know who owed whom in their previous life. Xiao Ming looked at his friend's self-deprecating expression and sighed, how long haven't you taken the medicine I prescribed for you? Lu Wenyan. I don't remember. Xiao Ming frowned tightly and said, Lu Wenyan, are you giving up on yourself? After thinking for a moment, Lu Wenyan chuckled and said to himself, I didn't give up long ago. I just gave up more thoroughly now. After pausing for a moment, he continued, I have filed for divorce with Luo Yunshu. Xiao Ming stopped his attempt to help him roll over and his heart tightened. Are you willing? This question hit the softest part of Lu Wenyan's heart, causing immense pain. He answered honestly, so what if I don't want to? Do you think there's any way I can make her tear off that emotionless, rational mask that looks like a robot? Is there any way I can make her fall in love with me? Xiao Ming became anxious and said, Wen Yan, you can't divorce Yun Shu. Your illness will not last. Your feelings for her are different from those for your sister. She was the beam of light in the darkest moments of your life, and now you need to take it off. This will make you fall into an abyss forever, understand? Lu Wenyan gently closed his eyes and said, I don't want to be influenced by her anymore. This feeling of never being close to her is like falling into an abyss. Xiao Ming quickly sorted out his emotions and analyzed them from the perspective of family interests. What about the interests of the Lu family? You have completely disregarded them. Grandpa Lu will not agree to your divorce. The Lu family still has an elder brother, who will handle this matter well. Grandpa and his team don't agree, so let's collect the body for me. Lu Wenyan opened his eyes and looked at his friend with a silly smile. Dr. Chiao, you can't save someone who is determined to die. Xiao Ming was so angry that he said, I don't allow you to be so selfish. How precious is human life? After a moment of pause, he continued, have you ever thought that if you die, the Lu family won't let Luo Yunshu go? She will be forced to a desperate situation, she will be in a car accident, an accident, and 10,000 different ways of death. Lu Wenyan. So, it's time for you to help me. All of my overseas assets have been transferred to Yunshu's name, and she just needs to go and handle the procedures. Xiao Ming forcefully threw away his medical gloves and said, Lu Wenyan, what do you mean? Are you confessing your last words? You didn't even let Luo Yunshu know you loved her, so you have to back down and be a shrinking turtle. Is this still the second young master of the Lu family whom I know? Is it still the man who was full of energy when he told me he wanted to marry Luo Yunshu? After a long silence, Lu Wenyan said with a desolate expression, I know that Luo Yunshu doesn't love me. Whether I love her or not, she doesn't want to know, let alone care. Xiao Ming became angry and said, Lu Wenyan, you are just a coward. Lu Wenyan smiled bitterly without refuting. You. Xiao Ming took a deep breath, I'll give you a shot. Rest well, stay calm and composed. Lu Wenyan sat up in pain, patted his friend's shoulder, and looked at him with extremely serious eyes. If I had an accident, you would protect Yun Shu for me, wouldn't you? There's nothing unexpected, nothing unexpected. Your own woman protects herself. I refuse to talk to you now. Xiao Ming helped him lie on the side of the hospital bed inside and gave him a quick injection. When Lu Wenyan fell asleep, he thought that even if his friend didn't promise, he would definitely protect her for him. His heart immediately calmed down, and he fell asleep the next second. When Mr. Lu and his mother came over, Xiao Ming talked about Lu Wenyan's situation. Where is Yun Shu? Lu Mu didn't see Luo Yunshu taking care of her son and asked. When Yan asked her to go back first, Xiao Ming answered truthfully. Lu Mu's face immediately darkened, but she didn't say anything. During dinner, Luo Yunshu was taken by the driver to Lu's house. When she returned in the afternoon, she took the damaged car to be repaired. So no one knows about her car accident. Just the aftermath of the collision seems to have come out, and she feels very heavy and uncomfortable. But it cannot be expressed. She endured the pain and listened to Grandpa Lu's concern, repeatedly expressing her understanding. Mr. Lu only let her go now. Lu's mother directly asked her to take care of her son, and a natural sense of unquestionable appeared in her expression. Luo Yunshu endured until he saw Xiao Ming sitting in the central consultation room, before falling heavily to the ground. Yunshu. Xiao Ming was quick-witted and caught her just before she fell to the ground. After rescue, Luo Yunshu woke up leisurely. Xiao Ming watched the film and asked her, moderate concussion, slight rib fracture, crashed, right? Luo Yunshu said in a daze, you're really good, come on, you two should rest together in this hospital bed. You also need intravenous infusion, your fever is almost 40 degrees Celsius. Luo Yunshu quickly fell asleep again. In the middle of the night, she woke up from the heat, her fever subsided, and her whole body ached. It really hurt to breathe and his throat was dry and smoking. Luo Yunshu frowned and tried to get out of bed to find water to drink. His joints hurt every time he moved. He tried several times, but eventually gave up. At this moment, Luo Yunshu's mind was completely clear and he saw Lu Wenyan sleeping on his side in bed, feeling very strange. Although they are husband and wife, they have never slept together before. Chapter 9. His Heart Devil Attack. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. She looked at his sleeping face up close for the first time, and it didn't seem like she was very repulsive, but she didn't feel much either. The important reason why she married him was to cut off Mo Rujin's path to power. Seeing Mo Rujin's angry and powerless expression made her feel extremely happy at one point. But this time, she felt suffocated again as she choked her neck, mainly because it came from her husband. Madam, are you awake? Do you want to drink water? A female nurse came in to measure her temperature and asked softly when she woke up. Luo Yunshu nodded, unable to speak. The nurse thoughtfully helped her pour water from a cup with a straw, and after taking her temperature, respectfully said, Madam, the fever has subsided. Please rest. Luo Yunshu's gaze was sparkling, her skin was as thick as grease, and even if she was sick, she couldn't stop the beauty she emitted. The feeling of pity at first sight during the illness made the nurses unable to resist blushing and being moved. Only with such exceptional beauty can one marry a man as perfect as a banished fairy like Lu Ershao. The nurse sighed inwardly. Luo Yunshu quickly fell asleep, feeling as if she had returned to the year when she went abroad as an exchange student. That year was the happiest day of her life. She finally no longer had to watch her mother cry and cry every day for her rotten father. You don't have to look at your father's hypocritical smile, you don't have to face the constant provocations of a mistress woman who has been a father for 30 years, and you don't have to fight against the mistress's daughter Mo Rujin. Every day is new, and her study life is also colorful, except for sometimes when financial difficulties make her hungry. However, this problem was quickly resolved with the help of the professor. She was fortunate enough to work as a cleaner in the medical laboratory of the college, and her monthly salary was enough to support her livelihood. What surprised her even more was that on the day of the new laboratory's inauguration ceremony, she was invited to become an etiquette lady with a considerable commission. She was Kevin, the Eastern man she met that time. The teenage sentiment is always poetry, and she is deeply impressed by Kevin's handsome appearance and profound knowledge. She fell in love with Kevin, but Kevin remained silent for a long time. Even more so, when she was about to confess, she interrupted her, making her feel timid and afraid to show any more love for him. And Kevin, on the other hand, helped her find a suitable rental house, moved, planned a suitable school route, and solved harassment from foreign male classmates, but I never said I liked her. Until she accidentally saw another woman beside Kevin. She suddenly realized that she had moved away from Kevin. On the day when the exchange program expired, there was a drizzle in the sky. Luo Yunshu bid farewell to the professor, teachers, and classmates one by one. Returning to the rental house, Luo Yunshu quickly packed his luggage. When going out, I met Kevin, who had not shown up for a long time. He drank and looked a bit decadent with a slight drunkenness. Luo Yunshu said goodbye to him with a smile and even gave him a handkerchief that he used to show off with silk tapestry. As a token of gratitude for helping himself over the past year. Yunshu. Kevin hugged her and his whole body was trembling. What's wrong, Kevin? Luo Yunshu thought he was in trouble. Kevin didn't speak, just hugged her tightly. Luo Yunshu sucked in the refreshing body wash mixed with the aroma of alcohol, like a little girl who had stolen candy, excited and said, Kevin, I can't breathe anymore. Kevin held her face as tender as chicken protein, and a kiss lightly landed on her rosy and soft lips. Luo Yunshu's whole body was as stiff as fire, unable to move. Yunshu, I'm sorry. Kevin's eyes were crimson, as if trying his best to endure the pain in his heart. You like me, don't you? Luo Yunshu mustered the courage to ask him, his eyes filled with hope. Kevin dodged his gaze and said, I. Luo Yunshu's whole heart was pounding, and she couldn't help but look at Kevin without hesitation. She took the initiative to kiss him. After a brief struggle, Kevin began to respond. Luo Yunshu was struck by a fervent sense of happiness, his whole being floating in the clouds. But soon, Kevin's phone interrupted the beautiful scene at this moment. Kevin saw the name of the caller on his phone, as if he had been struck by lightning. A few seconds later, he seemed to wake up and looked at Luo Yunshu with a guilty expression. Oh, Yunshu, I'm sorry, I drank. So. Luo Yunshu's heart suddenly cooled and his eye circles became astringent. I cannot make any promises to you. Luo Yunshu gently closed his eyes and opened them again, forcing a smile. I understand, Kevin. You must have a very proud family background. Your wife is destined to be a woman who can match you, and I am not worthy of you. Kevin hugged her again, feeling heartbroken. Don't say that, Yunshu. You're very good, excellent. Well, then I will definitely meet a man who likes my excellence in the future. Kevin's body stiffened after listening, and it took him a while to relax. He gently let go of Luo Yunshu. Yes, Yunshu will definitely meet a very excellent and loving man in the future. Luo Yunshu couldn't help but shed tears and nodded, I think so too. Kevin touched her hair, his little girl was about to grow up. Give it another hug, Luo Yunshu smiled and extended his arms. Kevin moistened his eyes and smiled as he hugged her. Luo Yunshu's height is just right up to his chin, and he can comfortably nestle in his broad and warm embrace. This is the cutest height difference, Luo Yunshu thought. Kevin's phone rang again, and the two of them were awakened from a dream. Kevin looked a bit embarrassed as he released her and took out a beautifully packaged custom-made pen from his pocket. Yunshu is going to become a doctor in the future, and I hope this pen can bring you good luck, he said. Thank you, Kevin, I really like it. Luo Yunshu smiled brightly. Kevin nodded and said, Goodbye, Yunshu. Goodbye, Kevin. Kevin's driver had already helped him open the car door. Luo Yunshu watched as he got into the car, which slowly started. Her tears flowed down her face, and the love in her heart gave her the courage to run after the car and shout, Kevin, there is a girl named Luo Yunshu who once loved you. Kevin in the car turned his head to look at Luo Yunshu, who said she loved him. He wanted to tell her that he also loved her, sincerely and without reservation. But as the eldest son of the family, he has long lost the qualification to choose the woman he loves. The car kept going further and further until it was out of sight. When Luo Yunshu came to her senses, she saw the back of a tall man who seemed to be very similar to Lu Wenyan. When she wanted to catch up and watch, she woke up from a dream. The sky was already bright, and Luo Yunshu was stunned for a while before completely withdrawing from his dream. Lu Wenyan is not yet awake. At this moment, Xiao Ming walked in and greeted her with a smile. Good morning, Yunshu, wake up. How are you feeling? It seems like there's still pain in the ribs. Luo Yunshu tried to move his body. Well, it's not a big problem. Let the nurse change the bandage for you later and take good care of it for a few days. Xiao Ming said and looked at Lu Wenyan. He helped him change his sleeping position, but he didn't wake up. Chapter 10. Divorce is okay, I want to make her feel worse than death. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. It shouldn't be, the sleeping dose I'm using isn't big, it's time to wake up, Xiao Ming said, picking up a stethoscope to help Lu Wenyan check and performing several routine tests. His vital signs are normal, but he just doesn't wake up. Luo Yunshu asked, what's the problem? He seems unwilling to wake up. What if you don't want to wake up? Xiao Ming pushed his frameless glasses, hugged his chest with both hands, frowned tightly, and looked at his friend. He then glanced at Luo Yunshu, his mind spinning. I think this is a mental illness. Luo Yunshu was puzzled and said, isn't his mental illness Mo Rujin? He has resolved Mo Rujin's biggest difficulties, and he should be happy. Xiao Ming looked at her with a look that Luo Yunshu couldn't understand. Do you think so? Otherwise, besides being deeply in love with Mo Rujin, I can't think of any reason to make him so selfless. Xiao Ming was angry and said, don't say things like deep love to Mo Rujin in front of Wen Yan in the future. He can also hear them now. Also, don't you mind whether Wen Yan says or does anything, whether or not he finds a woman. Luo Yunshu ignored the occasional discomfort in his heart and looked calmly at Xiao Ming. I had a prior agreement with him, only being a nominal couple, and I didn't interfere with anything he did. He said, even if he wants to divorce you, you don't mind, do you? Luo Yunshu was shocked by Xiao Ming's angry expression. Is this still the gentle and jade-like man? When Xiao Ming hesitated whether to tell her the true situation of his friend, Mr. Lu, his father, and mother came over. Lu's mother saw that her son had not woken up yet and said, I slept for a long enough time. Xiao Ming. Perhaps it's because he's too tired. His body is fine. Don't worry, I just checked it out. Mr. Lu stepped forward to look at his grandson's back injury, which was not very serious, and then he finally felt relieved. Father Lu saw that his son was fine, so he rushed back to the company. Lu's mother said to her daughter-in-law, Yunshu, when Wen Yan wakes up, he will decide whether to rest and recuperate in the old house or return to Yueran residence. Luo Yunshu nodded and said, I know, Mom. Mr. Lu looked at her again with a scrutinizing expression in his eyes. Xiao Ming felt that the atmosphere was a bit off, so he said, Grandpa Lu, I'll help you with your routine physical examination. Mr. Lu withdrew his gaze and nodded. Lu's mother was dissatisfied in her heart, but she had to pretend to comfort her on the surface. Yunshu, Sister Yun will bring breakfast later, and you and Wen Yan will eat together. Also, the money I transferred to you, don't be polite, accept it. Luo Yunshu had no choice but to order the collection. She and Lu Wenyan were soon left in the ward. Luo Yunshu leaned half against the headboard of the double hospital bed, recalling Xiao Ming's questioning just now, feeling a wave of discomfort in his mind. Xiao Ming looked angry as if he was going to beat her up. Also, the attitude of the elders of the Lu family towards her seems to have turned her into the wrong party. Luo Yunshu turned his gaze to Lu Wenyan, feeling extremely frustrated. He didn't say he wanted a divorce, and now he's not waking up, that's nothing. After thinking for a moment, Luo Yunshu deliberately provoked him by saying, Lu Wenyan, it was you who said you were going to divorce. How can you leave until you wake up? Now everyone thinks I don't know what to do. I ask you, what did I do wrong? You should look down on me like this. If you like Mo Rujin, go like him, and I didn't stop you. It's not because of me that you were beaten by your grandfather, right? Don't worry, I will propose a divorce to my grandfather. Lu Wenyan opened his eyes at some point and interrupted her rambling. Luo Yun breathed a sigh of relief and finally woke up. Well, when you wake up, I'll go tell Mom. Lu Wenyan said coldly, no need, after changing the medicine, I will go see her. Luo Yunshu felt his coldness and felt a sense of injustice in his heart for some unknown reason. You go out, I want to take a break, Lu Wenyan said in a commanding tone with his back to her. Luo Yunshu frowned and looked at his back. In the end, he didn't say anything and left the ward. When Xiao Ming came in, Lu Wenyan was covering his stomach with a cold sweat on his face. Is this a stomach ache again? Xiao Ming felt heartbroken for a moment. It wasn't that he had asked you to quit drinking long ago, but you didn't listen. Your body wasn't made of iron, and if it continues like this, it will be over sooner or later. Lu Wenyan smiled wryly and couldn't speak. Xiao Ming prepared medicine and fed it to him. You pretended to be awake, but pretended not to be awake. You heard everything I said to Yun Shu, right? Lu Wenyan's expression was gloomy, and his heart was tingling again. Wenyan, what exactly are you thinking? Divorce, let her go free, said Lu Wenyan with a firm gaze. Xiao Ming became angry and inserted his hands into his hair, pacing back and forth. Lu Wenyan, can you not just think about yourself? What about the Lu family? You really don't care. It's just a divorce, said Lu Wenyan, ignoring the situation and only thinking about temporary pleasure. Xiao Ming roared, Lu Wenyan, your brain is not normal. I will go tell Grandpa Lu about your condition. You need mandatory treatment now. Well, after the divorce, can I go abroad with you for treatment? The Lu family does not allow divorce scandals to occur again. Lu Wenyan curled his lips and said, scandal and my fate, I'll let my grandfather choose. Take my medicine now, and I won't stop taking it from now on. Your brain is completely abnormal. Xiao Ming was so angry that he wanted to go berserk. When Luo Yunshu came in carrying breakfast, he noticed something was amiss in the atmosphere. Xiao Ming. You guys eat, remember to take your medicine after meals. Luo Yunshu nodded and placed breakfast on the table, then turned around to help Lu Wenyan, but he refused. Luo Yunshu withdrew his hand and squeezed out a smile. Mom and Pai Yunjie specially prepared it for you. Just now she received a crying phone call from her mother, saying that she was deceived by her father and all her assets were transferred to him. Luo Yunshu's mind exploded with a loud bang. She had to endure countless hardships to force her father to transfer half of his wealth to her mother, but this was not enough, so she was deceived back. She was originally thinking of getting divorced, at least her mother had a way out. Now it's over, there's no way out. If she really gets divorced, not only will she be kicked out by her father, but she will also be crushed by Mo Rujin again. It's better to let her die. My mother also brought her an explosive surprise. My father, Mistress Mo, and a son have been brought into the Luo family. This can explain why Mo Rujin is not her father's biological daughter, and she can still receive her father's favor. Lu Wenyan watched her sit still for a long time, with a restless expression and a cold expression. He interrupted her daze and said, you can eat it yourself, I don't have an appetite. Luo Yunshu didn't realize the flattery in his tone. Well, drink some congee. Dr. Chiao didn't say you should take medicine. Lu Wenyan was hit by her pleasing expression and his tone returned to normal. He didn't want to see her please him, he would rather she was as cold as ice, so at least she wasn't weak.